happen. It certainly feels like Joel Embiid is chasing something. It was a little bit of revenge against the Celtics, came right out and said it. I do not like playing those guys. Remember a couple of years ago, it was 76ers and Knicks in the first round. 76ers went down in 6 games. But obviously they have momentum coming off that Game 7 win. The question is, Melo, how do they maintain it against the Knicks? Everything that we saw from the 76ers last round, what are the things they have to bring into the Garden here tonight?
Well, one thing for sure, they bring in Joel, so Joel is alive. They bring in Maxey. Outside of that, I always say, well, I said this, my X factor for this series, at least for tonight, is Paul George. Him shooting 55% from 3 in the last series against Boston, I don't think he's going to shoot 55% from 3 against the Knicks. At least we hope he don't shoot 55%. But if he comes anywhere near that, then that gives him that 3-man punch, that triangle that Philly's always been looking for. And then now Philly becomes a different type of team.
Their defense must travel. More so, I mean, yes, you're going to score, but you're going to have to find a way to stop the 1-2 punch of Brunson and Cat as well, and neutralizing OG. Because even if Brunson is not going, they found something in playing through Cat.
Yeah.
They meeting the Knicks, and I think he's gotten them going in his vision. He's had 2 triple-doubles in the last 3, within the last 3 games. So they now have, you know, and the coach even said, we found something, you know, that works, and we want to continue to ride that, and that's something that is important for the good of the Knicks. So Philly's defense is going to have to stop and neutralize this guy and make him guard. And the easiest way to neutralize the Knicks is by getting that guy in foul trouble, getting him on the bench.
Yeah, and I'll add something else. You talk about the pressure, and you know, and a lot of players are going to say there's no pressure, but when your owner comes out and say we have to get to the finals, right? That's pressure, you know, especially when you've been knocked out, you know, 22 or 23, 24, 22, 23, 24. That's a lot of pressure coming into this series against a healthy Philadelphia 76ers. So as a player, you're thinking about that. You know this is a pressurized situation, especially understanding and knowing that quote from your owner. Like when your owner says that he bringing pressure from top down.
I just think, you know, when we look at the Eastern Conference in the beginning of the season, you know, no Tyrese Maxey, and no Dame. You know, when you have all the injuries, the East was wide open. No Halliburton. We were speaking. No Halliburton. The East, we were talking about it being wide open, and who was those teams that we felt like could get out of the East. I don't think we mentioned 76ers because we just didn't know the health of Joel Embiid, but we did mention Detroit, and we mentioned the New York Knicks could be that team. This is their chance. This is their opportunity. And, you know, when you have a veteran core group that they have, they've been here. They understand, you know, what the task is. But you got Joel Embiid, an MVP, that you're going up against that's extremely motivated. You have some dogs in Maxey and VJ coming in there, and also Paul George has found himself after coming off of that, you know, 25-game hiatus. This is a really confident group that's coming in with a chip, and it's going to be a physical team. They're going to do with this team. They could play many styles because of their roster, right? If they got it going on the perimeter, they could play that way if it's perimeter oriented. But if they're not knocking down their threes, I've always told you guys, they could play below the free throw line because they have that one guy. And it's, for me, the X factor for the Knicks is going to be Mitchell Robinson. And I'm going to tell you why. Cat, to me, I don't think is going to be disciplined enough to guard Joel Embiid for a lot of minutes in this series. So if I'm the Knicks, I'm going big lineup. I'm putting Cat at the 4, getting him off of Embiid, have Mitchell Robinson guard him. And then if Embiid goes out of the game, Mitchell Robinson, you go out of the game, get your rest. And that leaves Cat, right, to be in an advantageous situation on the offensive end, because now you got to put somebody like Paul George on him, right? That has that advantage to be able to play below the free throw line. So for me, it's going to be a chess match, and I want to see how it plays out.
To that point, as far as Philly having somebody that could play below the free throw line, Cat has to play below the free throw line a lot during this series because you have to put the pressure back on Philadelphia 76ers. You can't just let Joel come down and pick his spots on the court. He's going from the top of the key to mid-post, right block, left block, elbow. You got to limit a lot of those spaces, those areas that Joel wanted to get to on the court.
Well, you brought up a good point because Joel Embiid did play the Knicks twice this season. In one of those games, Cat fouled out, and he had 10 points and 6 rebounds. Now, the Knicks still won that game, but that could be the difference if he gets into foul trouble. The other thing I want you guys to just keep in mind, Joel Embiid hasn't played more than 6 consecutive games since December 2023.
Yeah.
So this is something that they're going to need him for. He's only going to give you a tank top and shades and a hat.
That man got to get fired.
Atlanta on it.
This is a playoff, bro. Nah.
That's what you wanted?
Yeah, this is playoffs.
You want him a tie? What you want him to wear?
Yeah, I look better than that, man. He look like he's going down to the corner store,
just
man.
Basketball.
It's just basketball. They say you're not supposed to change when you get to the playoffs. That's what they said. Guys, I want to start this show with the news that we came off the top with, which was Jamal Mosley being fired. And remember, guys, we actually had this conversation last night.
A couple hours ago.
Yeah, during our post-show. You're taking a look at the Orlando Magic over the course of the last 3 seasons. Now, Jamal Mosley, he did lead them to 3 consecutive postseason appearances, also 2 division titles, a couple of winning seasons. And it's so interesting to think about. He's had to deal with a litany of injuries. We actually did the math, and his 2 stars, Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, only able to play together about 41% of the time, less than half of the time. And they still were able to find some wins, but the decision has been made. What do you make of it?
Well, obviously, I'm not happy about it. I thought Mo was the right guy for the job. I felt like he and Paolo, based off of what I seen in the playoffs, it seemed like they got on the same page. Paolo showed some growth in that playoffs. But, you know, that Game 6, I think, is what became the detriment to his job. And when you lose a 24-point game, when you had an opportunity to close out the #1 seed and to make history, I think that has something to do with it because that was a very, very tough loss for the organization. And, you know, we heard the riffles of, the best player and the coach wasn't on the same page in the regular season. And just a lot of that coming out of, Orlando. Moving forward, I hope they make the right coaching selection, but they got to get some better talent in there. I don't care what coach they bring in. The talent has to become better.
I agree with you, man. And my take on this is you got them back. You got them to 3 consecutive playoffs. You signed him, right? Coach Mosley got a contract. You just signed him, I think, the 24. You have him signed through 27, 28, so I think a couple more years on the contract. That's one issue. Paolo comes out in 2 closeout games, have 45 in Game 5, 38 in Game 7. Franz Wagner gets hurt. Yeah. And then you look to everybody else. To me, this is not a coach's situation. You can say it is. Do I think this was the straw that broke the camel's back? Yes, I think this has been brewing all season long. Whoever comes in here have to have a real conversation with Paolo. Listen, I'm here to win. The time is ticking. We ain't got time to be patient anymore in Orlando. Let's get to work. What do we have to do to win? Paolo, I think he's going to take another leap, especially after this. He's going to have new energy in there. He's going to have a new coach in there. He's going to have a new situation. Now, what he does with that, and also what the front office is going to do. Because it's not about Paolo. He showed that he's a young star. Franz showed that he's a young star. Everybody else. So whoever comes in here, they got to fix that roster right away.
I agree with that. It must fix the roster, but the coach that comes in, I don't want to use the word bow down to Paolo, but the next coach that comes in needs to challenge Paolo to take him to that next level. Not to where he feels like he's the dictator, but he can help him get to the next level. And I think that conversation is most important. And I like the 1-2 punch of Paolo and Franz, but I agree. They need shooting. They need to upgrade the roster to complement those 2 young stars, particularly Paolo, because I think he showed us a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, Game 5, he had the 45. Game 6, he played great in the first half and just disappeared in the second half. but responded.
Yeah.
And that's growth, because easily for a young guy who's hearing all the whispers with everything going on behind the scenes can just easily pack it in. He did not. He brought it, he brought his lunch pail, and he was ready to go, but they didn't get it done. I think this is unfortunate, because I think Jamal Mosley, like you said, has been great for them.
Yeah, especially developing those guys.
Sure. He created basically an expectation, because if you just look back kind of the history of the Magic, they hadn't been to 3 consecutive postseasons since Stan Van Gundy was doing it from like 07, 2012. So that was 11 seasons where they were just struggling to find some consistency. So he built it. He built the expectation, and ultimately that becomes part of the reason maybe that the Magic feel they have to move in.
And lastly, I want to say, I got the opportunity to call games for the Magic a few years ago. And the one thing I noticed and I enjoyed was how Jamal demanded from the young talent, even though they didn't like it sometimes. You know when things go bad, but you go to a player and they look you in the eye. I felt that was the case. They respected him and his voice. Maybe his voice started to kind of, you know, just go in one ear, out the other, but at the same time, he still came to work and demanded from those guys. And that's what I noticed from, you know, the time I was calling games with them to you know, up until last night. He still coached. He still got in those guys' face, regardless if they liked it or not. That's what young guys need. You need a coach that's not going back there and saying whatever. He's going to hold you accountable.
Well, that's the only coach that Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero have ever known. He came in with Franz, and then Paolo was drafted in the next year. The question is, then what do they need? Is it an offensive-minded coach? Is it a young coach? Like, if you are working for the Magic, what is the type of coach you're bringing in?
You had a good one.
You just don't have the pieces, though. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have the pieces.
Not so much
it's not about
it's the pieces, man.
It's the pieces that you have.
Because I'm sure the coach that you are going to select is going to be a coach that, you know, will exactly know what he wants out of the team and knows how to coach, because you're not going to make a mistake of, you know, hiring an inexperienced coach.
Particularly if you just gave Mosley that money, too.
So your next coach has to be a veteran coach that really knows the game of basketball and knows how to get the best out of his players. And I don't know who that is out there. I'm hearing Tom Thibodeau. I would love Tom Thibodeau. I would love Tibbs down there, because he would challenge them. But Tibbs, you got to let up on, you know, we got to go deep into the roster.
They got Billy Donovan
out there.
And Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell should get a look.
There's some good options out there, but upgrade the roster.
Okay, all right. Well, Jamal Mosley officially out at Orlando. He was the 7th coach to hold down that fort since Stan Van Gundy. So over the last 11 seasons, been really trying to put